a little bit of housekeeping. Just wanted to welcome you to our next speaker series tonight. And we're really honored. I'll tell you a little bit about Mr. Lasker in a second. It's good to be back in the speaker series chair here. I wanted to kind of give you a preview of a few things that are coming up. Next month, there'll be somebody named Kimberly Schreiner doing a talk on their trip to Africa. We just returned 2 weeks ago, had an amazing trip. And it would be, it's an opportunity for me to kind of give you a chance to hear about where Phil Simon Clinic Tanzania project has been and our accomplishments and where we're going. So that'll be on Wednesday, April 17th at 7 p.m. After that, we have one of our speakers is going to talk to us about some cultural aspects of poverty and what drives that. And then we have a few other people down the road to do some more talks on global health and local health. And as those get sort of secured into our locked into our schedule, I will give you more information. But we'll probably be dark in August because of the summer, but I do think we'll probably have May, June, and July as well. We'll see how things go, and we'll keep you apprised. If you check our website or get the email blasts that we send out, then you have an opportunity to see what's coming and can sign up for any of these. Please share those with your friends. It's a free an hour-long event and during the middle of the week, which can kind of break up your week a little bit. And we're delighted to be able to provide you with some interesting people to talk about. Tonight, we're going to have Alex Lasker, and I think I just saw him leave his desk. So, here he's coming back.
I was looking for something.
Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Lasker. He's a very impressive fellow. He is a graduate of the UCLA School of Film, and it sounds like he spent most of his life doing a lot of writing for television and movies, and has been a writer and producer. And some of his movies are well known. Tears of the Sun with no other than Bruce Willis. He's done movies with Patricia Arquette. The Beyond Rangoon was directed by John Borman, a very famous director. So he really has some very impressive credentials. But he decided to toggle over to writing a novel. And it's a very interesting topic, as you now can hear about with his topic about the memory of an elephant. And for those of you who haven't read the book yet, I highly recommend it. It's been well received on Amazon, received several stars. In fact, I believe 5.5 stars from Readsy and 4.5 stars from Goodreads. Very informative, inspires you to think about animals in a different way. And so I'm just going to really delighted to welcome Alex Lasker, and he's going to tell us about his book. Thank you, Alex.
You are so welcome. I'm so pleased to be here. This started about 10 years ago when I got out of the film business because I realized they weren't buying original screenplays anymore, unless you're Chris Nolan or someone like that. And that had always paid the bills, and it didn't pay anymore. So I figured, what else can I do besides write? There was nothing I could figure out. So I figured, okay, I got to figure out a novel. I read an article in National Geographic that was about the Sheldrick Trust. And there was a picture of a baby elephant who'd been left for dead with a spear in its forehead. And the Sheldrick Trust people nursed it back to health and decided to raise it until it was old enough to be re-released into the wild and to catch on with a herd. That was enough for me to say, I have to tell the story of this elephant, his whole life, which would be, minimum of 50 years. And in order to make it really work, I had to use the humans who rescued him as an orphan. And they had a family of 5 people, 4 of them, and then an indigenous Kikuyu. And so I told all of their stories over a 50-year period. I knew this pretty well because A, I had been to Africa twice as a teenager, so the landscape was very familiar to me. And my whole life, my generation, I could fill that in really well. And so I just started writing it. I had never done that before. I always plotted something first, outlined it so that I knew exactly where I was going. But this just told me, okay, I'm going to tell the story of this elephant as he looks back on his life, as he's going to the place where he knows he was born and raised to say goodbye because he knows that he's dying. And so it had this obviously highly emotional pathos. And the story just told itself. I mean, I would paint myself into corners and I would figure it out after about 2 or 3 weeks. Oh, okay, this is what can happen. And it was the best writing I had ever done. And I am really proud that it moves people. I know that it really upsets people first 25, 30 pages because I figured that the slaughter of his herd had to be really powerful. And I had some people who couldn't read past that point. And maybe some of you probably felt the same way, but I felt if I didn't have the impact of how poachers destroy, that it wouldn't work. But once you pass the point where he is rescued, it then becomes something that is really life affirming and positive. And I found places that I didn't expect, like him being taken to England to be put in a zoo. I don't, no spoiler alert here, but if you haven't read the book, I'm sorry. Um, and I wanted to cover the zoos anyway. That's a really important thing to me is that people should not visit zoos. Zoos should not be supported. You can have, wildlife sanctuaries, but you don't need to have them in cages and in enclosures. And as I wrote it, I felt like it was making me come alive through this elephant, Ishi. And I felt so proud when I finally got to the end. I maybe some of you cried when you read it. I cried throughout writing it. There were several places where I just wept. And I felt, okay, if I'm crying, other people are going to cry. This is good. I know I'm in good shape. Uh, so that's enough from me. Ask me some questions.
Well, I mean, it's really interesting. So in many ways, you wrote this sequentially. It just literally came out because you use that kind of temporal arrangement with the chapters very effectively. I think both temporal and geographic, and you kind of toggle back and forth. But you also go back in time, and a lot of books do that, but sometimes it's kind of jumpy and it's not, there's not a lot of continuity. And I thought you did that really well. Is that how you wrote it? Or did you plot it out and then kind of put the pieces together?
No, I never plotted it out. I just wrote. And when I would get to a dead end, I would figure out, okay, what else do I need to bring in here? Where do I need to go in time? And then I figured out, okay, then we can do this. And then characters came up that I had never even envisioned, like the billionaire who has the rescue with the sanctuary. Never even thought of it until later. And the elephant just really told me the story. I know that sounds a little, but it really.
If that's what that's what it was. Do you think in some respects it doesn't read like a screenplay, But do you think that your experience and training with writing screenplays and being involved in film, did that help with write this, Alex, or
Yeah,
did you just pull this out of your writing thing?
it definitely helped because I was always a really visual screenwriter. I would always describe stuff. Uh,
Uh,
Sometimes they tell you not to do it just to write the bare bones. But I always felt it was important for me to set the scene. I always wanted to be a director when I went to film school. I never got there. And so I guess I kind of direct my screenplays so that you can't screw it up too badly, so that you see what I want it to be like. And with a novel, I was finally able to do it all by myself, and you have to read what I write. So it was a real pleasure to be able to do that finally.
what kind of background preparation did you do? Do you have experience in zoology or biology, or how did you prepare to sort of, because a lot of what you talked about, the physiology and the behavior of elephants, I'm a physician, but I certainly have read a lot about elephants. It seemed very accurate. Did you do a lot of preparation to sort of get to know their
Yeah,
behavior and that kind of stuff?
yeah. I did a lot of research. I did about a year of research.
Uh-huh.
I read about 7 or 8 books, all of whom had been about elephants in some way, shape, or form, mostly nonfiction, some fiction. And it taught me a lot, especially the nonfiction and just researching about how they communicate, how they can do it through their feet, um, and their sonar, the sonic expressions that there were studies where I read where teams would watch two herds or two parts of two herds many miles away communicating with each other, and they would track them going from they would meet up in a place that was totally equidistant, and they realized that these elephants had been talking to each other so specifically that they knew exactly where to go, which was just mind-blowing. And then there was the Lawrence Anthony book. I bet a lot of you have read it. um, I forget what it's called, but he raised a wild herd that were going to be killed if he didn't take them, and so he did. And it took him a while, but he finally was able to be their their guide, their friend. And when he passed on, they were spread far and wide. They were like at least 50 miles away. They all showed up 2 days later at his place where he lived. I mean, explain that.
Yeah, that you mentioned that in one of the last chapters, and I actually looked him up. And if you want to read some interesting things, read about this fellow Lawrence Anthony, because it's exactly how Alex described it. Where the elephants came after he had died. He was young; he was only 61 when he died. I guess of a heart attack. But um, the the other piece that I think is interesting, and maybe I'm reading too much into this though, is sort of how you shaped, because you seem very knowledgeable about the social structure of elephants with the importance of the matriarch and how the bulls are always kind of, and for those of us who've been lucky enough to spend some time in Africa with elephants, you can see that there's often the large herd with the babies and so forth have mostly just females and kind of some young adolescent males who are always creating mischief. But then there's of course the sort of bulls that are out there kind of roaming around themselves. Sometimes they'll pair up with other ones, and you have that with with especially the different herds that Ishi gets involved with. Can you talk a little bit about what you did for research for the social aspects of the elephants?
It was once again the nonfiction books that I read and the articles in National Geographic, but they were all really specific about the structure of the family and what happens to males when they get to adolescence. Whereas we have to deal with our males, in a way that is similar. We sort of ostracize them, but in the elephant world, they definitely throw them out of the herd. The matriarchs are really cruel about it, and the males want to hang in, and they're not allowed to. And they kind of just one morning, everybody will wake up, and the male bull is gone. He's moved on. and he meets another male herd, rogue elephants. That's the life they have to lead. And then once a year, they're allowed to re-enter their society when they all meet in the plains for procreation. And then once that's over, the males have to take off again. It was all really laid out. It's right there if you care to read it. That's what research is all about as a writer.
What it's interesting because you do sort of create some parallels in the humans with the very strong female characters like Jean and Amanda,
Yeah.
that really kind of take over the care of Ishi after Kamau and so forth, and then the men are sort of more wanderlusty kind of characters a little bit, and of course some of them are bad characters. That one of them comes to a very bad end, old uh, Gichanga. Yes. But so it's interesting how you kind of, I thought that was very well done. I assume you did that on purpose, where there was kind of, but it wasn't like sort of, now here's the chapter on humans and here's a chapter on elephants. You mixed it in very well. And I thought that was really interesting. In addition to having Ishi's voice being, and how he sees humans, the two-leggers and the boomsticks and that kind of stuff, I thought that was very, very well done. It was very smooth in terms of the transition. So make some comments maybe about our own society and how we can learn from elephants, or how we seem like them or not. It's a very interesting parallel, I think.
Thank
Was
you.
there a reason why you chose elephants? And you had the National Geographic article, but you chose elephants over other potential candidates like lions or apes or rhinos or something?
None of them gave me the gravitas and the intelligence of the elephants. A gorilla would be a good story. Maybe I'll do that next. But an elephant just seemed to have everything.
Did you
Uh,
have any contact with the Sheldrick Trust and the people there?
no,
No, didn't have any.
I
Very
tried
interesting.
reaching out to them. They never got back to me.
That's interesting. They have a very slick film that's available if you look it up. It's a they certainly have done a tremendous amount for elephants. Um,
I wish I'd been able to relate to them, but they just didn't answer. I'm just
what
another fiction writer, so
you're a Hollywood writer. That's
yeah.
a very good pull there. In terms of the message, kind of what I mean, there's lots of messages I think in the book about interactions between amongst animals and how animals differ from humans, and there's interactions between humans and animals. But what was the message? Was your message predominantly an ecological and conservationist message, do you think, or was what was your kind of goal with the book, if you had one?
I didn't have that kind of goal. I just wanted to tell a really good, moving story, however I could put it together. Um, there was no conscious, you know, if you can appreciate animals, you won't kill them, you won't eat them, you will love the world more and the humans more. That's all I wanted to say. And to stop poaching. That was my main thing, is to be able to really describe that for people so that they would be so put off by it that they would never buy anything from that had ivory. By the way, the book is going to be published in China,
Oh,
which is
interesting.
very surprising because they're some of the biggest offenders as far as buying ivory. I would love to see China embrace this book. There's what?
Yeah, that's you're absolutely right. I think that would be. I think it seems like there is some movement there. It's interesting. We our project is in Tanzania, and a lot of your book some of it takes place in Tanzania. They go up through the Serengeti to cross into Tsavo. Um, Kenya's had a kind of a mixed bag in terms of being able to control the poaching, I think. But it does seem like there is certainly some improvement, and as you point out in some references in the book, the only way to really decrease that is to get rid of the idea that having ivory is a good thing, or rhino horns don't really make you more potent as a male and that kind of stuff. But I think that the consumer part of those products, I think, is something that is the only way you're really going to control it. And that sort of brings me to the point about Kamau, who I thought was a very sympathetic character that and having known most of our colleagues, or many of our colleagues anyway, in Tanzania are Maasai, or certainly of some of the other bigger tribes there. And I thought you captured Kamau's sensitivity about his country and the animals in his country, and certainly his relationship with Ishi very well. And what did you do to prepare sort of some of the cultural things on the human side with the Kenyans and the Kikuyu in particular?
Just did as much research as I could, and then used my imagination and my sympathies for their native populations. And I really needed to have a sympathetic, highly intelligent African be one of the main characters. And, even though he was sort of grafted onto the white family, he worked for me. I really liked him. Can I say? He was my favorite character besides the two females, especially Amanda. Amanda really, I was in love with Amanda.
And well, it's interesting too, because Kamau starts out, as you mentioned, as sort of adopted by the family. And I think that was also another interesting thing. One of the things we struggle with a lot when we're in Tanzania is to the role that colonialism has played in East Africa in particular, but also in South Africa, of course. And really how Africa now is much more for the Africans. I mean, Africa, the continent of Africa has the highest population of young people under 35. It's really going to be the population that controls, moving forward in humanity. And I think that we're seeing a lot more assertiveness and independence, and it's been a struggle. But there's still always these sort of remnants of colonialism that happen. And I thought your book dealt with that in a very not in a judgmental sort of way. I thought it was a very sympathetic, and a lot of your white characters were very sympathetic, but I thought that the transition, even finally that at the end where Kamau takes over the rescue and that becomes his project, I thought that was a very smooth and very nice transition. That one of the things that our project is doing is to really to build the infrastructure and the of healthcare in Tanzania by educating young Africans, and that's where it's much more, I think, effective. We had pondered building a clinic, and there's a lot of those kind of clinics around in East Africa that I'm sure you're aware of that are sort of monuments to people with a lot of money or people who don't live in those countries. But I think that addressing the personal part of things, that when you're dealing with people and getting them to grow and to take over a lot of the important things in conservation and in healthcare and so forth in their own countries, I think is very, very important. And I thought you did that very sensitively and nice with that character. So
Thank you. Anybody else out there want to talk? Ask a
yeah,
question?
I don't want to be the hog here. Does anybody have any specific questions for Alex? He's obviously very eager to answer them. I've got a whole list, but I don't want to be
Nobody?
They're a shy group. Now here comes Dory. Dory, go ahead.
Kim asked most of my questions already, but I'm curious, when you spoke to having done the research to prepare to write the novel, but I'm curious, in your mind, what percentage of the novel is based on science, and what percent would you say, and this is talking about Ishi in particular, is your imagination?
All of the physical stuff is based on science. What he says in his own mind, that's all conjecture. The structure of the families, the structure of how they live and eat and do whatever they can is all factual, but I had to use the imagination to talk like an elephant. I wanted to be as realistic as possible. And the voice of the elephant to me was the most important thing to capture. And I gave it to a few people when I first started it, and they all said, "You've got it. Don't change it. Just keep talking like that. That's the elephant is real. We believe it." So once I felt that, I felt I could write the whole thing. Does that
Yeah.
answer your question?
Yeah, no, thank you. It was, and you definitely were able to do that. The he, is very real.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Louise, go ahead.
Yeah. I think ivory is illegal in the US and maybe it's not illegal in China, but do you have an international picture of where it's illegal and where it's not?
I know just just I don't know specifically every single country, but I know that like the Philippines and some Southeast Asian countries like elephant tusks and product, and they don't think that they're killing them. They think that they're actually harvesting their tusks and that they'll grow back. That's what they've been taught by their society and by their church. The Catholic Church actually, which loves ivory and ivory carvings, say, no, no, it's fine. Well, I'm hoping that will change. And if this book is released there, hopefully people will read it and say, oh my God, I had no idea. China is very surprising to me that they want to publish it because they're the biggest offenders. They have, as you know from working in Africa, the Chinese are everywhere trying to take over whatever they can monetarily. If they can be changed to not kill elephants, we'll be in a lot better shape.
Just as a matter of sort of how books, when they're translated, Alex, do you have the prerogative to review the translation to make sure that the translation is true to what you wrote? You hope?
Nothing.
Nothing, really, huh?
Any chance it can be published in India?
Where?
India.
There's a chance. My international publisher is based in India, but she hasn't been able to find a publisher yet. But that would be great because they obviously have a major relationship with elephants. I'm gonna actually, I'll email her tomorrow and say, why can't you get your own country to publish this book?
What do you think that young people, because I'm not sure some of this is I think that they're certainly concerned about conservation and so forth, but I think the history of poaching and hunting, I mean, obviously a couple of your characters were former game hunters, which is very common. George Adamson, of course, was a famous game hunter before he became a conservationist with lions, but that kind of a message that would relate so that young people can kind of take up the the cause of conservation and that animals are sentient beings. I think we're trying to promote that so much in many different venues of conservation. Jane Goodall, of course, is very vocal about that. Do you think that I think the book seems, because Ishi has a voice, that it really does make it very approachable, but was there any intent to kind of engage people that maybe wouldn't be as knowledgeable about what happens with elephants?
Yes, but we have a major problem. Nobody reads in that generation. Nobody. I would say, well, from the figures I've seen, 80% of readers are 65 and over. And most of them are women. So I don't know how you reach Gen Z, millennials, Gen X. They just don't read. They look at their phones. They look at, everything but fiction. So I don't know how to reach them.
Well, here's a thought. Would this make a good movie?
Huh. It probably would. but I haven't yet been able to get it to somebody in the film business who would see the wisdom of it. I would love to, but I'm so gone from the film business. I'm 75 and they don't want to talk to somebody 75.
Hmm.
So I don't have an agent anymore in the film business. I don't know any of the producers or executives. It's sad, but that's why I did this. I wrote this because there was nothing else I could do. But if anybody knows any big Hollywood producers, please let me know.
I don't know if we have any Hollywood producers on here, but there's probably somebody who knows somebody, so.
Yeah, that's,
So I was curious, Alex, do you know the story about Ishi, the indigenous person in California with the Krobers?
sure.
Did that have anything to do with why you chose that name for the elephant?
Yeah, in a way, because I really appreciated that story. But it's also I can't remember if it's Kikuyu or Maasai, but Ishi is Anaishi is a phrase in African.
It's
Dory?
Swahili. Swahili.
Swahili.
What does it mean, Dory?
It means life.
Life.
Yeah.
So the other reference was I attended Occidental College and Cliff Krover was one of our professors, and it was his parents, Theodora Krover, that the book Ishi, which was sort of about the last indigenous,
Yeah.
and he was Paiute, I believe, or Chumash Indian, and it struck me as interesting that you chose that name, but the Swahili thing also makes good sense. So
Yeah, it was a combination of the two. I had also gone to UC Berkeley, so I knew that family and that name.
yeah, because that's where he taught it. Cliff's dad taught it at Berkeley, so interesting. Do you think that there would be another book coming out of this, or would you choose a similar topic or carry on the same characters, or?
I don't think that those characters will last to another novel. I'm still looking for something like this. I don't know what I'm going to do next. I'm hunting. I really am looking hard, but I haven't found yet something that would use both a human and an animal voice, which I kind of want to do. I really like the voice of an animal in telling a story. But no, I don't think that this book will lead to an offshoot of it. That's
You know,
it.
it's interesting because it used to be sort of that talking animals that, I mean, we had, of course, Mr. Ed, which was that really dates me. Oh no, Wilbur. But they were sort of silly characters. And I have to say, to the credit of Disney, they have lots and lots of good things they do. There's also have some sort of checkered things, but that with the advent of the Lion King and a lot of their other really spectacular animated things, that they've given voices to animals that, sort of fit and make sense. And I thought in some respects your book would fit that only in a I think by reading it as opposed to hearing his voice or watching his lips move or something. I think it makes it more powerful that you really feel like you're getting inside an issue I'm talking about, his psyche. And because it was italicized and also just the way those words were put together seemed different than when you were describing the humans. And that's, I think, was a very effective thing. I don't know how you could translate that into film or something visual, but it was very effective.
Well, they have so much technology now, computer generated, that they could make this elephant and all the animals as believable as if they were real. Did you see the Life of Pi?
Mhm.
Those weren't real animals, and they were so real, and that's 15 years ago. Now they'd be able to do them even better. So I know it could be done, but I just don't have the connections anymore to get somebody to read it to say, yeah, this would be a great movie. And I think it would be. It'd be a fabulous movie.
Well, somebody suggested in the chat an animation film. But I was also thinking if you do an illustrated version or a children's version, illustrated, the people that I know read books to their kids. So you say no one reads books, but I know many parents, they read children's books to their children.
Yeah, that's true.
Children love animals. And I have a granddaughter and she already has elephants and loves them. So I don't know, a children's version or an animation film, both would be great.
I don't have the bandwidth to do this again for a children's version, but I think that anybody over 13 or 14 would appreciate this book. You don't have to be that adult. You get it. But I just can't seem to get to that audience. And doing it as an animated thing, if somebody came along and said, I want to do this, I'd say, fine, yeah, go for it. But I don't think I'm up for that. I'm so fed up with the film business, I don't really want to deal with them anymore. It's a losing proposition for me. Sad to say.
Hmm.
Who's the dog?
That Amy, your doggy.
Hey,
I think this is a fairly pet. Well, there's also the corgi over here. That's Gwen.
hey, yeah.
And that's something I think, I was thinking, as my team will tell you, one of the reasons why we're in Tanzania is because of a film that was made in 1964 called Born Free. And that film was very influential. So I'm just thinking with there's Esme's doggies, with your book, again, even though you obviously have lots of experience with the film industry and maybe some of that has been tricky, that sometimes those kind of events can really be influential in young people's lives, and they maybe would not be something they would think about, but they would be very interested once they saw it. I think The Lion King probably got a lot of people interested in Africa and African animals, maybe that wouldn't have if it wasn't such a big hit and play, actually. And that would be another venue, Alex, that you could consider. It's hard to, you could have a real elephant, I suppose, but
Yeah.
I think there was a production of Aida one time that they actually had elephants, but I think that my own personal opinion is that the book was very good, and I think that I wouldn't give up in terms of its potential to, most importantly, make people think about conservation and how precious these animals are. And elephants are, even though they're enormous, they require a great deal of space because of their size, but also because of their social behavior. They move around a lot, and confining them in very small areas is obviously a very cruel thing to do to them. And they're so highly sophisticated. And when you think about it, other enormous animals like whales and dolphins and orcas and things like that, also very societal animals that we've had a very bad relationship with for so long. So it really has many parallels, and one can only hope that the next generation picks up the importance of how preserving these really important parts of our ecosystem, that our existence depends on these animals.
Yeah.
And I will say that I think that the young people that we've met in East Africa, some of whom are perhaps destined to become veterinarians. That's one of the things we're doing with our project, is to sponsor doctors, nurses, social workers, and a veterinarian, hopefully in the next year, is that they can take that forward, and I think appreciate the beauty of wild animals and how important they are to our existence. One of our doctors, who's now in the Ministry of Health of Tanzania, had never been on safari until he met us and came out with us to the Serengeti. He is Maasai, but he lived outside of Arusha, had never been out to a national park, had, I don't believe, seen an elephant until he was with us on safari. So, and now he's part of a very important project that we're going to embark on, looking at animal health in its relation to human health. So I think I would encourage you to be positive about the impact of what your book could have, and perhaps maybe it needs to be translated into Swahili.
Do you think that there are readers that would read it? in
Absolutely.
Africa?
Many of the young people in East Africa speak English. So you get, and we'll certainly recommend it to them, but I think why not? That would be the perfect audience, really, in terms of empowering local governments and so forth to protect elephants and the wildlife.
And I don't know how you would do this, but I could see that as being a book in hotel gift shops and things in East Africa that people would buy up as well.
That's a
So
great idea. How would I do that?
that's the part I don't know.
Yeah,
Well, you could give us some copies to take over on your next trip, and we could distribute them around. I think that's a great idea, Dory. See, these meetings are lots of things can come out of them. People when you're traveling and you've seen elephants and who did the cover, Alex? I was going to ask you about that.
I found a photo on Getty Images, and that's what I used.
It's very good, and I think it's an eye catcher, and I think that's a great idea, Dory. A lot of hotels and lodges and safari companies that are over there, people are sort of in the mood to either read something like that or to pick it up and buy it, and I think that's a great idea.
It's a great idea. I just don't know how to get there from here. If you could help, I'd be.
Sure. We can connect you with a couple of the lodges that we stay at and see what they would say. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah,
Especially if you autograph them. You could have a little.
I'd be happy to. Can Amazon be ordered from Africa?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Can they?
Yeah. Can they? Yeah. Samel, I think, has gotten things off Amazon. I don't know how they get it to them. A lot of them don't have addresses. There's like post box and stuff. But yeah, Amazon could do it. Or again, you could have Linda said, was it really? Was it at the Cultural Center, Linda?
I believe
Wow.
it, not at the cultural center, but one of the small gift shops where they had the tea and coffee that was on
Really?
the out.
At
I
Shonga?
believe,
Maybe it's
No.
already over there, Alex.
you know where the,
Yeah, where the ladies, the
no,
No, not
behind
this
the
side.
cultural center, they had some small little gift shops.
oh,
And I believe that book was there.
Where?
in Arusha.
Oh,
Maybe it's gotten there already.
I sent a few copies to somebody in, I think somewhere like Arusha. Maybe.
Well, see, you're off to a good start then.
They can't order them off of Amazon. It's really too difficult. Because
Yeah, I mean, Amazon does I think they do you can order things in East Africa from Amazon, but God knows how long it takes to get over there. So
it wouldn't take
Yeah.
all that long, but it's better than me having to send my own copies.
yeah. Well, like I said, we can believe me, we take a lot of luggage with us, so we can throw like 20 books in the L7 bag.
That's
No, I think that's how things get started, and I think I guess my sort of other question was, you haven't talked to the Seldrick Trust, but is that something that would be another option for your book to be distributed? Is to talk to some of these elephant conservation organizations and see if they would?
yeah, but I have not had any responses from Sheldrick, for instance. But yeah, I would love to get involved with
Does
them.
the Lawrence Anthony Foundation, do they still, I think, what do they have an organization, I think, too, but I know his son was taking over some of the stuff that he did, so.
They're probably very proprietary about their stuff.
Yeah, there is that kind of stuff that goes on, so.
I'm an outlier that's, that they don't know I'm not a famous author. And I don't have a big publisher bankrolling the book. So I'm just
That's how most writers get started, though, right?
All you have to do really is get one person that works at Sheldrick to read the book and to think that it has value for their guests because they get hundreds and thousands of guests constantly. Every day at feeding time, there are 100 people there, and they have a gift shop. So if they thought that that book was a good companion, and they also have an online shop. So I don't know. I would not give up just because you haven't heard from them. I would send them a copy, and there are other elephant rescues. I know in Kenya, if not in Tanzania, it would be, I wouldn't give up.
Do you have any connection to these Sheldrake people?
I don't. I just follow them on. I adopted an elephant. You can adopt an elephant,
Yes.
and
I did that, yeah.
yeah, and then get their incredible Instagram videos and posts every day, pretty much. No, but I would write Angela Sheldrake, and
She's the daughter.
she's the daughter. Yeah.
We can write a testimonial from our organization, just, they don't know who we are, but so we got the word Tanzania in our organization, so.
If you could help, I can't seem to get to them by myself. It'd be
Well,
fabulous.
The US office is in La Jolla. You know, you can just
I've
call.
written to them and they've not given me a call back.
Hmm.
They're,
Well,
guess
maybe
I'm-
we should,
Have you sent them a copy of your book?
I don't remember if I have or not.
Do it again.
Yeah, I will try. If anybody on your group can help, that'd be most welcome.
we've got some innovative people here that can maybe grease the wheels a little bit. All it takes is just somebody who knows somebody. So but I absolutely agree with Dory, Alex. I think you should send them a book, and if you want a testimonial from us, we'd be happy to do that. And like I said, I don't think they're going to know who we are, but you know, it doesn't make any difference. Sometimes they think we're more than, they think we're the Paul Simon Trust or something. So he's an Art Garfunkel guy. So anyway, I think that's a great idea, because it not only just for your own, you know, benefit, but just because it's such an important thing, and it just needs to be drilled home all the time about how important conservation is, and how our history with abusing animals is, you know, we can't make up for that, but we can certainly try to change and move forward in a different way. So I think it's, and if they have, I didn't know they had something in La Jolla. Is that just like is it a headquarters or something for them?
It's their US headquarters, and it's Angela Sheldrake.
Angela's the daughter. Yes.
I'll see if is she in LA or is she,
No,
Yeah.
she's in Kenya.
Okay.
She's at the trust.
Is that in Savo or outside of Nairobi?
No, it's in
Right.
Nairobi National Park, right outside Nairobi. Yeah.
I'll give it a shot. But if any of you have a connection, I'm all ears. Reach
You
back out.
could write a group letter.
Okay, I'll give it a
All it
shot.
takes is one little thing that gets the ball rolling. So I think that this is a crowd that can accomplish that, Alex. That these guys are movers and shakers. So
Oh, God, I hope so. That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
other questions for Alex or comments? I have his contact information. Would it be okay if anybody that asked me from this group to have your email? Is that all right to?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Welcome.
All right. So I can see Dory's wheels are turning right now. So Dory speaks Swahili and is a very experienced East African person. So she's a good one to be your advocate. So
Okay, Dory, I look forward to hearing from you.
I'll see what I
let's
can
do it
come
for the
up with.
elephants.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everybody for coming tonight. Thank you, Alex, for really for writing the book. It's, you know, and also it's a nice length. It's not too long. It's you know, getting these giant dense tomes, you know, it's sort of daunting, I think, but it was just, I thought, very moving and important and well written, and congratulations. It was really an excellent job. So we enjoyed it, and we're very honored to have you as a guest. And we'll have you back for the next book
Okay.
or movie or
That'd be wonderful.
or and we'll see if we can. And I'm serious. If you have, do you have some? Well, we can, if we can get maybe 10 or 15 copies or even more, we could, when we go next year, we could take some with us.
Yeah, I mean, here in LA, we're just send them to you to somehow.
Yeah, you can just, I mean, I can come and pick them up and we can just throw them in our medical supplies and off they go. And then we'll distribute them there, but we can talk about that offline at some point. So,
You got it.
well, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Kim.
It's our pleasure, Alex. We really enjoyed having you, and it was a really informative book and an informative evening. And I thank everybody for taking the time to do this. We hope you come to some of our future speaker series. And like I said, next month you can sort of see a lot of what we did in Tanzania. See some familiar faces here. So, but we're really on our way. Things are just it was an amazing trip, and we're so lucky to be in such a beautiful part of the world with such beautiful elephants and people who care about them, because it really is a special place. So thank you all for your support and for attending, and we will see you in April.